The interesting thing to me on the Aiyuk thing is just that where the market has really gone, and it's just exploded. And I don't know that they can replace him. He's a number one receiver, and can they find a number one X receiver in this draft if they moved on from him? It's all about kind of how Shanahan sees it. Which brings me to the Daniel Jeremiah mock draft, which had them taking Xavier Worthy. Worthy was one of the names that was mentioned in the silver piece as, hey, if the Niners do make a move and pivot and go in a different direction, they could try to replace Aiyuk with one of these 4 or 5 receivers. And one of them was Xavier Worthy, who ran a 4.21 40. And John Lynch said, hey, this is the kind of time of year where we're trying to add significant things to our roster. In some cases, strength, in some cases, size, in some cases, speed. And he individually said speed. There's no question that Worthy adds speed. What do you think? I mean, Kyle Shanahan was a wide receiver at Texas. Xavier Worthy is a wide receiver from Texas. A lot of people like A.D. Mitchell, who ran in the 4.3s, but Worthy ran in the 4.2s. And he really would create a lot of space underneath for the 49ers. I mean, in a lot of ways, he's a bigger, better version of Danny Gray, even faster. What do you think of the Niners adding just, I've asked Shanahan this question 3 or 4 times and through the years. How important is it to have the go pattern guy who can run off the coverage as a play caller? And he's like, it's huge. It creates space. It helps everybody. The defenders know when there's an impact speed guy out there. What do you think of replacing Aiyuk with a big time home run hitter and then maybe coming back in the 4th round or 5th round with Luke McCaffrey and adding a speed element in Worthy and adding a, move the chains element in McCaffrey, and maybe, using that extra pick on, an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman, if you can get up to 15. I mean, if you can get to 15, you might be able to might be able to add any number of defensive players. What do you think?
I mean, that's a good question, but in terms of the 49ers offense, like the more I look at it, because normally I'd say, I don't know if I want Worthy. He's a speed guy, this and that. But if you look at the Dolphins model, they kind of use the Niners, offensive scheme with Mike McDaniel, but then he adds that speed element. And we've seen that offense flies. You got Waddle and Tyreek. You get a guy like Worthy in that offense, and you take the top off the defense with the space and all the motion. I mean, it would probably be deadly. Now, he's not the same type of receiver as Aiyuk, where he can use his route tree and everything. But with the 49ers, the way that they have Debo and Kittle and CMC and all that and Jennings creating all these mismatches, he's going to get one-on-one opportunities. If Xavier Worthy's one-on-one with the receiver with his speed, he should be able to win most of his matchups, and he could be a very efficient receiver like Aiyuk was. So he's definitely a different type of receiver than the 49ers are typically, known to have under Kyle Shanahan. I think it'd be fun to see what he could do. But yeah, right away off the book, you're going to be a little weaker in that area because I mean Aiyuk 4 years, he's put on the muscle, he's got the blocking ability, he's that veteran, he's got that presence in him. So Worthy would definitely be have a lot to prove. Now the Luke McCaffrey thing, yeah, he'd be a nice chain mover, but they already have a good chain mover with Jennings and he's clutch. Although we don't know if he's going to be there next year. After this year's season, he'll be a free agent. So yeah, definitely something to consider for the future. Like Lynch said, and I think McCaffrey can bulk up and continue to develop. They also have Ronnie Bell, who I like, who could be a professional chain mover down the line. But
Yeah,
definitely
there's
wouldn't
also
hurt.
Tyler Boyd out there. If you wanted to go
Yeah,
sign Boyd as a free agent, I mean,
yeah,
you could go that route. I'm just thinking of options, but wide receivers have to complement one another. And really, if you said what do the Niners need, they needed a Xavier Worthy. I mean, I'm not saying they need to have a guy with 4.21 speed,
that's
but
crazy.
they don't have the speed element because Danny Gray hasn't fulfilled that potential, hasn't
Yeah.
been able to get on the field. You say, what do they really need? Okay, so they've got right now Debo on all the underneath stuff and all the gadget plays, and then you've got Aiyuk across the middle, and you've got Jennings as your 3rd down guy on the sideline or across the middle. And really, if you wanted to, and they've got Trent Taylor, who's a return guy, and they got Ronnie Bell, who's kind of a return guy. So if you said what's the complement to what their current receivers are, it would be that speed element, that home run threat. I don't know if Xavier Worthy can stay healthy, but that's intriguing. And then if you mixed in the idea of potentially moving Aiyuk, now you're talking about maybe adding Worthy and McCaffrey's brother Luke. Now you've added two receivers. The impact of Worthy down the field, and whatever a guy like CMC, Luke McCaffrey's brother, can potentially, or Luke McCaffrey, see what he could potentially add as a probably more of a chain mover, a good route runner, a guy with good hands. To me, it's going to be interesting because I think where there's smoke, there's fire. I think Lynch could have
Mm,
shut this whole thing down easily if he
mm.
wanted to. But he didn't. And it's because they're cap strapped. And I think they're already at a financial impasse between what they want to pay Aiyuk and what Aiyuk wants to make. And there are limits. I mean, that's the thing. There's limits to what you can spend and what you can pay.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the Amon Ra deal today, when that came, I was like, oh my
It's a
god,
huge
that's
deal.
crazy, dude.
And
I was
Amon Ra's better, though, than him. Wouldn't you
Yeah,
say?
he's a wide receiver one. He's got the targets, and I think that's kind of where this is hard to gauge because Brandon Ayuk, and I've seen other people like GM people that have other sports handles and analysts and this and that, and you get like this weird conversation about Ayuk. Like he's not a wide receiver one. He's helped because of the fact they have Kittle and Debo and CMC, and he only gets the one on ones. He's not able to beat double teams and this, that, and the other. So it's tough because I don't know if a lot of teams value him as a wide receiver one because yeah, he got 1,300 yards. He had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons as the fourth option. Now imagine now you extrapolate that, put him on another team, make him the number one, and give him a surplus of targets. He should naturally have a lot more yards than he normally does. But then the other thing is, well, if he's the number one target, he's not getting the one-on-ones like he does with the Niners. So it's a tough conversation to really, um, you know, to quantify how much Ayuk is worth. Because, yeah, if you just look at it and see the importance he has to the 49ers, you could probably say he's worth the 30 million. But then if you take that away and put him on another team, will he be the same receiver? Would he put up the same stats as Amon Ra on the Lions? It's hard to gauge that, Larry, because there are a lot of factors that help him with the Niners. But again, too, for the 49ers, he's that important because he has that rapport and chemistry with Brock Purdy, and that's something you cannot replace. Like his chemistry with Brock is so vital for both of them. You take away Ayuk, yeah, you can get Xavier Worthy, but will he have the same timing and chemistry that Brock and Ayuk have? It's hard to say. And again, you have a young quarterback. You need to make sure that he has a wide receiver that he's like in sync with, and they can grow together and develop together. So it's a tough one. That's a tough price to put on IU. What do you think his price is?
I think his price is like $30 million. I think he wants
Mm.
to be paid between 28 and $30 million. And I think the Niners would like to pay him about 22, 23. And
Oh,
I think they're just far apart. And
that's bad.
my guess is that they know and like Ayuk. Ayuk knows and likes them, but Ayuk wants that big bag over what they want to pay. And I think they're going to draw a line in the sand, and especially if they can find a team that's willing to give them a pick in the first
Mhm.
round. And I think they will. I think they will. I think Jacksonville definitely would be willing to move their first round
Yeah.
pick for Ayuk. Maybe Indy too. Steelers, I'm not sure, but sounds like the Steelers are very interested. I think Washington could have interest if it got to a round two situation. But the one is the team that has the highest pick, that if they want to make the deal, is probably Indianapolis. Now the question is this: if the Niners get the 15th pick in the draft,
Oh
who are
God.
they looking at? Who are they looking for? And I was watching going through the prospects today in the teens and looking at, who's where and who could be available. I'm pretty convinced that if they made a deal with Indianapolis or Jacksonville, as
Mm,
Daniel Jeremiah is indicating, those are the two hot names after Aiyuk. I really think that their target in the draft would be the corner from Toledo, Quinyon
mm,
Mitchell, who was a teammate of Samuel Womack the third for the Niners at Toledo.
Wow.
And Quinion Mitchell is just one of the best prospects in the entire draft. He was incredibly productive. He had 4 interceptions in a game. He's one of the best man-to-man corners, probably the best man-to-man corner in the entire draft. I think he's probably going to be there in the middle of the first round. He also then went to Indy and had just a phenomenal combine where he showed what a tremendous athlete he is. And I just really think that the Niners' takeaway from the Super Bowl is that the Chiefs had Snead and McDuffie, and that they didn't, that they need to be better as far as that corner. And I don't know about the future of Mooney. Can they sign Mooney long term? Can they sign Lenore long term? Do they have to choose? And to me, if they do wind up trading Aiyuk and get into the mid first round, I think they go Quinion Mitchell at corner. And I think that then, when their pick comes up at the end of the first round at 31, they go receiver or maybe offensive or defensive line and go receiver in round 2, maybe trade up. But I think it's Quinion Mitchell. That would be the guy I would think.